I believe you're live now. Hi, everyone. This is Namir Khan with you, and I would like to welcome you all to a very important session that we'll be having today, which is tracking fintech, banking, and financial services and innovations. Now, this may seem to be like a topic that you may have heard about and discussed multiple times, but we will take a very different approach. So, I'm the chairman of the MENA FinTech Association, as mentioned, and at the same time, we'll be giving a very different twist to this entire conversation, a very regional twist, a twist where we will be trying to understand what is happening on a global perspective, one, and secondly, give a feel of what is actually happening in the region of CIS as well. Now, for this specific conversation, we have a fantastic panel, I would say. We have Zor, who's advisor to the chairman of the management board, which is with the International Bank of Azerbaijan. Then we have Farid Usmanov. I hope I'm taking your names correctly, by the way, so please ignore that. Who's the executive director of Central Bank of Republic of Azerbaijan. Then we have Vera Platonova, who is the senior vice president for CIS at Visa. Then we have JJ, as I call, which is easier for me, JJ. I mean, you can then you can actually pronounce the name easier later, who is the head of financial industry transformation at Santander Digital and also leads the open banking vertical itself. Now, the important thing that I would like to discuss today, right now, is going to be kicking off in a very structural way, where I would like to give first of all, the stage to Fareed from the Central Bank of Azerbaijan to basically share a few things with me. Number one, the most important thing is going to be, you know, when you're looking into a fintech ecosystem, when you're looking into a larger fintech ecosystem and how a complete fintech ecosystem is operating. In my personal experience working with 22 central banks across the region in the MENA, what we have understood that central bank plays a very critical and a very pivotal role to enable innovation, to be able to enable an ecosystem that is conducive for growth. Now, Farid, my question to you over here is going to be that, I mean, the Central Bank of Azerbaijan has been taking multiple initiatives. Yes, we would number one like to know that. But as per you, what has been the biggest change that you have seen in the banking industry, and how has the Azeri Central Bank been responding to it?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say uh, that I am very much honored to be a part of Monex Summit, and also want to express my warm greetings from Azerbaijan, a country that liberated its territories from occupation. As regards to the question, the biggest change is escalated by a pandemic situation. The spread of COVID-19 represents an unprecedented global shock, impacting not only the banking industry but also an economy itself. Coronavirus pandemic pushed traditional banking industry to digitalization in order to provide more available and more secure services. That's not surprising. The rapid shift toward digital banking also enormously had changed customers' behavior. For instance, mobile banking payments increased by 100%, internet banking payments has rise by 71% within a year. In spite of pandemic situation, the Central Bank of Azerbaijan has implemented, as you said, a number of fundamental projects to make our economy to be more cashless and innovative and digital. The first major initiative is development of the law on payment systems and payment services. I would like to talk about this aspect. In spite of having different fragmental regulated policies and payment systems and services, there should be the appropriate legislation that will support digital payments to open the doors for non-banking service providers, agents, and e-money companies. On top of that, the modern regulated framework should support open banking initiatives, providing easy and secure access for citizens and businesses via account information service providers and payment initiation service providers. Therefore, the central bank has developed the relevant law and delivered to the government. The law encapsulates the main aspects derived from PSD2, aiming to provide a wide access for customers and fintechs and third-party service providers. The law highlights the compulsory requirements in terms of security and communication before and after initiation of the payments, focusing on open banking aspects. On top of that, we expect this law will bring better convenience for fintechs by introducing sandbox regime to enable the fintechs to try themselves in supervisory framework before launching. Another major direction in terms of technology is to establish innovative digital platforms like instant payment system and blockchain-based digital identity systems to expand accessibility of banking services across the country and fulfill the payments within 5 seconds, 24/7 between customer to government and government to customer in all directions, let's say. In October 2020, we've launched instant payment system, which was implemented by 70 commercial banks, National Post Office and State Treasury. And today, these payment organizations fulfill the payments within 5 seconds, bringing velocity to payment ecosystem. To be short, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing these key insights. Now, I mean, this is great, all the work that you have been doing, and I believe the important initiative has also been towards the 2025 digital transformation agenda that Azerbaijan has. So we really look forward to the overall development towards that. Now, I mean, Zora, I'll come to you from the banking perspective, right? So on the banking perspective, I mean, central bank has been playing a key role. They have been pushing the digital mandate. They have been pushing the digital agenda in the region itself. Now, being from the banking sector itself, like how have you been able to, number one, being able to respond to the push that is basically to push the banks towards digital transformation? One, and the second aspect is going to be that what have you actually seen happening in terms of the changes that have been happening in the banking industry overall? Number one, and we have seen COVID coming in. Now, how did COVID impact specifically your part of the world, your region, and specifically Azerbaijan? And how did that affect the way you have been conducting your banking practices?
First of all, I would also like to thank you for having me here. It's a real pleasure being here. When it comes to the question that you've mentioned before, I also joined the change that were mentioned by Mr. Osmanov as well, since we are living in the same ecosystem. But as a bank, as one of the key players in the market, I could say that we see the rapid change of the traditional working environment in the country, and which is really boosting the change and expecting to rapidly react to the changing consumer behavior. On top of that, we have previously started already digital transformation strategy that had been expected to be finished until 2022. But I would evaluate and assess the effect of the COVID-19 as an additional boost and additional opportunity for implementing this change, since our clients and the customers that are becoming the more demanding, more tech savvy, and in our turn at the bank, we have to react to this. Whereas like in different period of time, maybe 1 year ago, maybe the speed of the change, the speed of the reaction from the bank to the rising customer needs would be not as speedy as it is now. So here we have to think about measures to protect and ensure clients' well-being and their health procedures. This is also affecting the way that we are serving our clients. On top of that, the changing client demand, consumer behavior is expecting more more digital savvy solutions. So we have to pay attention to UX UI design of our customer experience. On top of that, we are thinking about the way how to optimize and make more efficient our customer journey. So wrapping all the mentions, all the things that I've mentioned before, I have to say that current situation with the change in 2020, overall we have to assess as a more opportunities for the bank, since the dynamics of the market is changing, and at the same time this dynamics is creating additional opportunities for the players who comes first, like who comes and propose the new solutions to the market. I think from that perspective, our bank is also implementing its digital transformation strategy, and as part of that, we are sort of realizing many of the projects before the deadlines, like before the expected time that we were planning to deliver. Since the customers, the consumers are not waiting, and the competition is really tough, therefore the banks here should be very reactive, and at the same time should be very proactive.
Now, talking about opportunity, I mean, Dor, thank you for highlighting this. This brings me to the point, like, opportunity and who comes in first and who basically takes the opportunity in their own, in their own landscape. Now, which brings me to Vera. Vera, I mean, you're working with Visa, looking at the region. Digital payments have certainly shot up the roof, right? And there has been significant development just on the digital payments lately. Now, Vera, my question to you would be that in terms of in the overall landscape, I mean, now we have discussed the central banking angle, we have discussed the banking angle. Now, when it comes to Visa itself, I mean, you have been a core player and you've been working with multiple banks, uh, you know, uh, you know, multiple platforms, multiple fintechs. Now, what has been the shift that you have seen from the consumer perspective and the banking perspective? Now, the consumer perspective is very important as well, because by the end of the day, there has been a concept that cash has been the king for the longest time, right? But then all of a sudden, we have seen people abandoning cash and then shifting towards digital. Now, when they have been shifting towards digital, there has been there have been different ways why people have been adopting payments itself. I mean, that could be by QR codes, tap and goes. I mean, more issuance of cards as well. There's more pressure that is coming in from the banks itself and from the central banks as well to head towards financial inclusion. People should be having more access to the cards. How has Visa seen the change happening in the region itself? Can you please share some light on that?
Thank you much for the question. And first of all, I would like to welcome everybody. And I'm really excited that this amazing event happened in digital format. But anyway, that's very important that we have it. So speaking about the trends and what we observed during this last year in the world, it's really unprecedented change. And I would say that when we talk about four main trends, which are digital economy, when we talk about tokenization, meaning paying with mobile phones, with space, when we talk about big data transformation, and when we talk about overall attitude and approach to small and medium business, this year has changed all these four main directions. And in really like positive way, despite COVID, is definitely is a very dramatic story. Yeah? So we see that despite face-to-face and cross-border face-to-face, as you understand, dropped in the whole world in times, in many markets, which been moving in the direction of digital for many years, we observed a dramatic increase in e-com transactions. I would tell you that in Azerbaijan, we observe the growth almost 170% over this period in number of e-com transactions. And then we talk about tokenization, about paying with mobile devices. This segment also grew like 300-400% market to market, mainly because people finally realized that cash is not that secure by all means, yeah? As money, digital money, as cashless payments. And definitely contactless, it's also part of the story. And another big spot that in Azerbaijan, in the whole CSSE market, in CEMEA, in Europe, everybody are paying attention to local segment. Why? To support local businesses, to support local entrepreneurs, to make sure that this basis of economy is surviving and even will be evolving thanks to the conditions we see right now.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, so when you were talking about the contactless side and the overall push towards providing more access, which brings me to one of the ways where you're able to provide access is via open banking itself, and Santander has been playing a significant role in that. Now, JJ, I mean, my question to you would be that from your perspective, you have been looking at it from a very global perspective itself. I mean, uh, when it comes to open banking itself, which has been a key facilitator uh, and has been a hot topic across the globe at this point of time uh, for multiple central banks and simultaneously for multiple fintechs as well. From your perspective, I mean, I know the last time when we spoke, COVID had not struck, but now it has. So I would now like to basically ask you, what has changed uh, since the past 8 months? How have things changed? Number one, and number two, any notable changes that you've seen that you would like to share, and what have you predicted that could happen in the next quarter that's coming towards us?
Yeah, thank you, Namir, and thank you, the WorldNet Summit, for having me and for organizing this super interesting panel. To your question, what we've been witnessing here at Santander, guys, for in this event, that maybe there's people connected from sides of the world where we are not that present. You should bear in mind that Santander is a global bank present in 42 countries with 10 core geographies, being Europe and Latin America are our sweet spot. And the differential value proposition that we bring is bridging Europe and Latin America together. And so being quite a convoluted bank and a different bank in different geographies, of course, we all belong to the Santander brand. We've been trying to put together something that we call One Santander, which is behaving the same in every single geography we operate, and letting our clients and letting our partners prosper in this very difficult environment. Since the kickoff of the pandemics, we've been witnessing lots of problems, clients are struggling, the economy really is slowing down in the different markets we operate. But I think that opposite to the prior financial crisis we had kind of 12 years ago, where the banks were part of a problem, we think that banking industry should be part of the solution now, to let the world and to let the society and the communities cope with the problems and recover in a faster manner. And this has been the effort, the mandate, and the day-by-day business that we've been carrying on all these very painful 10 months, I would say, 9-10 months. We did an amazing effort when it comes to digitizing the bank. We've been witnessing also an amazing jump or leap in the digitization of a bank, but also in the digitization of the client behavior. From 36 million clients, digital clients, pure digital clients, we jumped to 50 million digital clients. We also experienced 4 times more applications download of our different applications that we have in our digital channels. Is multiplied by 4. Could you imagine I mean, this is amazing. Also, we doubled the number of digital transactions, and you can only take it right, and you can only do it properly if you have the proper infrastructure,
So,
the proper ecosystem, and also the open banking initiative, which is something that you asked specifically, from being something nice to have, now I think is imperative, because it's the only way to really offer clients value added, and also the way to differentiate into the market. It's very complex to differentiate nowadays.
So
Yeah.
I mean, your point, which is differentiating, right? So I mean, this is very critical. So I'm just going to come to, I mean, thank you for your insights for that. I mean, I'm just going to come back quickly to Fareed, right? So Fareed, I mean, in terms of your from the central banking perspective, right? I mean, you have been pushing on the, as mentioned by JJ, on the open banking and how it's not just an option anymore, and we have to head towards it. Now, the reason why we head towards it is because the demand of the customer is there. I mean, the customer experience needs to be enhanced versus just having typical incremental changes that have been happening. How have you been from the central banking perspective? Because you know you're trying to basically bring in an enhanced customer experience, but at the same time you're trying to also protect the consumer's interest as well. Now, how have you been pushing on the technology side? I mean, your conversations with the banks. Have you been focusing on pushing the banks towards not just digital transformation for the sake of it, but of course at the same time enhancing customer experience with, most importantly, my second question is security, which is, you know, the digital onboarding aspect to it. Customer experience could be fantastic and great, but is the customer secure? Are you basically complying to all the regulations to ensure that the customer's data is protected? You are doing the complete KYC of the customer digitally, but in the right and appropriate manners. How are these two things blending in terms of the central bank of Azerbaijan?
Yeah, very good, and let's say the crucial question, because that aspect is a major aspect nowadays in the banking industry. So I would like to emphasize the crucial importance of data in customer experience, as you say. As far as we know, the innovative technologies and new solutions have changed the way of life of the people all over the world. This also affected various sectors of the economy as well as the banking field. The fact is, new technologies have changed the way the people use bank services, the way they invest and the way they earn profits. In other words, the new technologies have changed even banking supervision and image of banking sector in general. Almost all industries of an economy and also financial institutions rely on gathering, processing, analyzing, providing information, data, in order to meet the needs of customers. Taking into account the importance of information today in the banking sector, it's not surprising that banks were among the earliest adopters of automated information processing technologies. I would like to add, in terms of customer experience, banks should establish in modern communication channels. As you mentioned, the perfect onboarding platform is not so effective as usual. Should be the data security, personal data security in terms of GDPR and other regulations. And so, using these communication channels with the customers, the banks should learn the customer needs in order to provide predictive products and services. To be short, today data has enormous value as it creates a wisdom for banking services.
That's great. Now, Zor, from your perspective on the banking side, right? So my question to you is going to be quickly more towards the KYC angle to it. So, I mean, from the banking perspective, I mean, when we're talking about the marketplace in terms of digital onboarding, KYC, what has been the regional push in terms of the regulations? Number one, what do the regulations say? And number two, could you also basically share with us how has your bank adapted to eKYC and digital onboarding, and how do you intend to further enhance these capabilities in the region?
Sure, yes. First of all, I would also mention the importance of the security aspects here. So customer data security. This is very crucial. And here in this perspective, I'm at the same page with Farid, Mr. Osmanov. And I have to say that banks are in the are between customers from one side, which are rapidly expecting more speedy customer journey and maximized efficiency. And at the same time, we have to comply with all the rules and regulations at the same time. I have to say that on our side, we are closely paying attention and collaborating with fintech players in this extent. So with the key players which are already done similar experience in European countries, and currently we are looking for unlocking some opportunities in terms of collaborating with them on how we can speed up this process, because this is when we are talking about the customer experience, it's not just a client that is doing his operation, but this is all starting from onboarding, ending with offboarding. So from that perspective, we also realize the importance of open banking as well. This is not also for us something new or something that would be nice to have, but we are really thinking of it, and we see the future in open banking. So saying open banking, where our vision is to become a platform of the several services on top of banking services. But all these aspects, all this sort of opportunities, they come up to end up with the serious security topics, which we are really trying to make sure that we comply with all the rules and regulations on the country level. But and in that perspective, we're closely working with the central bank, which is actively reacting to the needs of the customers on behalf of the banks.
Brilliant. And with this, like, on the collaboration side, Vera, I mean, taking, Zor's, inputs over here, I mean, from your side, right? So have you seen any successful collaboration happening? And if you have seen any collaborations happening, because, Visa works with so many fintechs and supports so many fintechs, what has been the success factor in your region for these collaborations?
Yeah, I think we observe right now a very interesting trend in terms of evolution, yes, of fintechs and evolution of traditional classical banks into digital format. We know there are many fintechs, at least in CIS part, which really looking for cooperation with big corporate banking groups. And what I see is that there is a significant shift of traditional banking towards fintechs, and a lot of fintechs already in collaboration with traditional groups, using their platforms, using their branch networks, using even people resources and like classical banking resources. We as Visa, we cooperate with the world more than like 8,000 fintechs in different formats, in different like spheres. And I'm really pleased to say that Azerbaijan is a very strong representative of highly competitive fintechs in this region, but also in CEMEA. So I know that you have one of the largest and most successful loyalty platforms called Umico. So we definitely work with all banking fintechs which are present on the market, and we have a number of these. And I want to thank a lot central bank that your legislative base for the country is extremely well structured and developed. I put Azerbaijan as an example to many other markets around. You have remote authentication. You allow a number of very modern financial tools And that helps fintechs to develop, and that helps classical banks to evolve and grow financial inclusion and financial literature in the market.
Thank you, Vera. I mean, JJ, I mean, in terms of your understanding to what's been happening. So, I mean, the thing is that on a fine on a regional level, the customers are definitely ready because it's once again a growing region, young population. Uh, I just want to understand from your experience, right? So, have the banks been ready to serve the customers and the rising demand that's coming in? Now, when we're talking about the are the banks ready to serve the customer, that comes in two ways. In fact, a couple of ways. One is the product side. The right product, is that ready? The right digital infrastructure, is that ready or not? Third is going to be the mindset. So we do understand that by now, a lot of banks have understood that we have to push for it, right? So we have to go and we have to be digital. But eventually, if you want to be digital, and if you want to have digital products coming in, there needs to be a complete different strategy in place, and that needs to be quick. Because if you are not quick enough, then there are many other platforms that are now jumping into financial services. Like for example, Amazon just announced that they have now launched Amazon Payment Services in the MENA region, right? So there you go. So now these platforms are stepping in. So how do you see the banks? Are they ready to serve the rising customer demand or not from a global perspective?
You mentioned three pillars that are super relevant. One is product, second one is infrastructure, and the third one is culture. I would say that banks have a proper product. I would say that because we've been product obsessive or product centric as banks historically. I mean, so the product, we have it. The problem is that the product is commoditized. So to my prior intervention, I was telling about differentiation. It's very difficult to differentiate a bank from another in this environment. A mortgage is a mortgage, a loan is a loan, a card is a card. Yeah. But what really makes a difference is the way you serve it, the way you package it, and the way you simplify it, and the way you make it more accessible to the clients. And this is about infrastructure and platform. There's people here in the bank that are not that open to, or are quite reluctant to become a platform, because a platform has a bad connotation. It's like, well, I'm there in the middle and I do nothing. Well, actually, it's the opposite. It's the other way around. If you're in the middle, you can connect supply and demand, provided that the product will come, whether it's yours, whether it's from third parties, whether it's from product specialists, and whether it's financial product, but also non-financial product. Yeah. So this second one, the platform, I would say, is half ready. You have to be super quick. That's why in Santander we shifted our platform in a very pragmatic approach, and we went like, look, which ones are the revenue pools that are at risk in a bank? It's mainly payments and also lending. The other ones, are quite protected when you look at them. But payments is at risk, and lending is at risk. Is where we see fintechs coming across, is where we see other new animals trying to eat our lunch, and is where we have to move fast. That is why we launched a new fintech internally in the bank called PagoNext, who has its own life, its own mandate, and the opportunity is very big, as you know, and I'm sure Vera knows perfectly because it works for Visa, and payments is one of the clusters of innovation or of banking that has been more impacted, and actually is where we've been looking into the market at a larger opportunity for M&A, as it has happened like from the past years 18 and 19. So that's why we had to move fast and resume our strategy and go for payments and for lending like crazy. So, and maybe forget about other ones that are not that much low-hanging fruit, if you see what I mean.
So, I mean, with this, you mentioned moving fast. I mean, it's a very relevant question. I mean, that we just came in and asked for Zor from the audience. I mean, Zor, the question is that the strategic roadmap that the banks should be digitized by 2025, do you think the Azari banks have been fulfilling this requirement, and are they basically on track towards achieving this goal?
Yes, yes, indeed. If I understand your question correctly, so whether the strategic plan by the bank that had been set up, whether could you just clarify once more?
So it's more about the progress, right? So the
Progress.
agenda from the government is 2025. You need to have the digital transformation done for all the banks. So what's the progress? I mean, are you on
Okay.
track? Are the banks in
Sure, sure.
Azerbaijan on track to achieve that goal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's clear. Actually, it's a really great question, and I have to say that the good news is that, as I mentioned before, we are kind of advancing the time limit, the timeline, since this digital this digital this post-COVID era has boosted has pushed the banks to speed up with digital transformation. When we're saying the digital transformation word is quite fancy word, but when you just split up into many several initiatives, you have to say that all these initiatives under the umbrella of digital transformation, most of them had been affected by the changing customer behavior that are requiring the remote services, that are requiring, as you mentioned before, eKYC services. Here, I would like to add one point when you were touching the collaboration perspective. I think here one of the most important things for the banks, including ourselves, is collaborating, is supporting the ecosystem. I think in our one of our key initiatives of our digital transformation strategy is to support the ecosystem, is to start, as JJ mentioned before, is culture. Culture is very important. Here we see the importance and how the talents are critical here. Uh, at the end of last year, we have established our um, digital programming school that is preparing, developing programmers and coders for the country on the country level, and most of these talents are employed by the bank. Why I'm going to this initiative is that this is the start of changing the culture of the bank. So, as of course, like we have traditional bankers in the bank that had been working here for more than 20 years, but here we are
So
sort of mixing the blood, bringing the new blood. I think this culture change is going to be one of the key ingredients in pushing this
So,
digital
basically, you're
transformation.
building up the new talent at the moment, like the future workforce is what you're basically investing in. Now, I mean, so there's another question that, so thank you, Raisa Zenali, for the question. Now, the
Namir,
next question,
maybe if you don't
yes,
mind, I will add a little point here as
sure.
well. On top of what I have mentioned here, this is just the beginning of our collaboration and ecosystem development program. This is where we are already started incubating our own startups in our open innovation programs. And at the same time, we see the tremendous opportunities both for the startups as for the bank to collaborate. This is where we see this open banking future platform-based initiatives where we're going to have range of services through our digital channels. And I think that all these collaborations will really benefit both the ecosystem and at the same time banks as well, since the fintechs are now one of the critical key players and one of the most important players in the financial industry.
Thank you very much, Zor. So the next question that we have is from Abdullah Aliyev, which is so the question is that and this question is for Fareed. So I mean, banks, it's I mean, in fact, no, I'll take this question rather than giving it to Fareed. So the question is that what countries are more reliable? What countries' fintechs are more reliable and user friendly? I believe it's we're talking about fintech being reliable and user friendly. There are multiple factors to it, so you can't really generalize a country having a good solution or a bad solution. It's all typically about creating a solution that's relevant. By the end of the day, fintech is all about ease, access, convenience, transparency, affordability, and delight. And to be able to provide that, you need to have the right technological infrastructure and the right APIs. And when you're talking about APIs, the quality of APIs that you're building up need to be up to the mark and bank grade. So by the end of the day, if you're working with a bank, it needs to be bank grade secure. So to ensure that the banks can actually work with you. So and for that, you need to ensure that you have the right level of technological infrastructure. In fact, now I would forward this question that's from Nazreen Kamalova, saying that cybercrime has always been a threat to banks. What threats did pandemic bring to the industry and specific to the region? Fareed, can you please share some light on what have you seen so far?
Yeah, that's really important question, because being the IT guys and innovative guys, we like to more focusing on technology perspective. Sometimes it's like we shade off the cybersecurity and information security aspects, but Mr. Alekbarov he's talked about like collaboration work. We are collaborating with commercial banks and even financial institution to make our world more secure and to enhance with information security and cybersecurity mechanisms. First of all, I would like to mention that we are fulfilling the state program which was signed by Mr. President for digitalization of payment ecosystem in the country, covering 2018 and 2020. And we do have a number of aspects in terms of digitalization and even cybersecurity and information security aspects in the frame of the state program. And nowadays, we collaborate with financial institutions and develop the pretty much regulations for advanced information security and to define the cybersecurity measures. In terms of cybersecurity aspects, we are monitoring the cases, incidents escalated by the financial institution to have the preventive mechanisms. And in terms of collaboration, we talk with state agencies to prevent such kind of unauthorized, let's say, the attacks in the banking sector. So in 2020, we had a number of cases and incidents, but I would like to guarantee everyone we didn't have any results, successful incidents in the banking sector. And it again shows the pretty much powerful and well-designed and infrastructured banking sector in terms of security.
Brilliant, and that was a very good answer. And my next question that we have over here, a very quick one. In fact, what are the main priorities of the development of digital banking? What to invest in order not to lose? So, Laura, I'll take this question of yours before we sum it up. So, by the end of the day, I mean, uh, for the development of digital banking, the important and the critical aspect is that are you aligned with your strategy and who is your customer and who are you serving typically? And when you have identified these basic things, the next thing, which I just mentioned a while back, is like, uh, are you able to address these 5 points? Are you able to provide ease, access, convenience, transparency, affordability, and delight to the end user, right? And if you are, and if you are adding value to your product proposition, it makes sense for you to head towards it. If it's not making sense, if you can't do it, then don't head towards it. I can give you a detailed answer towards it. I would love to, but unfortunately, we are through with the time. I would like to thank you all, Zor, Fareed, JJ, Vera, for taking out your time from different places and being here and being able to share your insights and valuable insights, I must say. And I'm sure the CIS region is all set for rapid growth. It's definitely a region to look at. It's a young population, it's a growing population, and most importantly, a region that has a very strong digital adoption. So look forward to engaging with you all. If you have any questions with the panelists, then please feel free to reach out to them. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
I look forward to have this session offline next year.
Thank you
you.
all.
Definitely,
Hopefully,
inshallah.
yeah. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.